What's going on, guys? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Sega Genesis Mini. Now, I've been super excited about this since it was announced last year, and I finally got my hands on it. It is on the market. You can purchase it from Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy. It comes preloaded with 42 games and a price tag of $79.99. Now, in this video, we're going to take a look at the unit itself. I want to do a teardown. We're going to do a comparison between the Mega Pi case, which houses the Raspberry Pi, and the new Sega Genesis Mini. In the past, Sega has released several of these units, but 99% of them were pretty much horrible because they partnered up with Games to do it. Now, I just want to get this out of the way. This has nothing to do with Games. They put them to the side and they're using a new company to create the Sega Genesis Mini. From what I've seen so far, the build quality and the performance is miles ahead of any of the older Games Sega Genesis Minis that were ever released. So like I mentioned, we're going to see what we get for that $80 price tag. I also want to do a teardown because I'm interested to see what makes this thing tick. I'll also do a small comparison between the Mega Pi case and the new Sega Genesis Mini because I wanted to see how these cases stack up against each other. And then we'll get into some gameplay. So right off the bat, I can tell you that build quality on the console itself and the controllers is absolutely amazing. They've done a bang-up job on this. Inside of the box, we get our user manual, a 5-volt, 1-amp power supply, micro USB cable for powering the unit, a full-size 6-foot HDMI cable, and 2 controllers. Now, unfortunately, since I have the US version or the Western version, we only get the 3-button units, but they look and feel absolutely amazing. The controller itself feels like a brand new original Genesis controller, but will be connecting over USB 2.0, so I'm sure this is going to work with PC or the Raspberry Pi. We also have longer cords than the NES Mini came with, which is a big plus. I'm not sure if Sega plans on releasing these by themselves, but if they do, this would be a great addition to a Raspberry Pi build. And finally, we have the Genesis Mini itself. They pretty much just cloned and shrunk the original Sega Genesis. We do have the volume slider, but it is non-functional. They've also included a reset button and power switch on the Mini, which are functional, and a cart slot. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of 3D printed carts online that you can purchase, or you could print one yourself. I'd check out Thingiverse to see if anybody's designed one yet. Around back, we have our full-size HDMI, micro USB, and 2 USB 2.0 ports on the front for our controllers. Now, I haven't tested any 2.4 gigahertz wireless controllers with this unit yet. I haven't even turned this one on, but I will do that later on down the road. Now, as for hacking this unit, nothing is available as of making this video, but I'm sure something will be available soon, and I will do a full tutorial as soon as a hack is released. A lot of people are going to be very interested in the Mega Pi case versus the Sega Genesis Mini. So on the left here, we have the Mega Pi case by Retro Flag. This is a case for your Raspberry Pi 2, 3, or 3B+. One of the best retro console cases ever made for the Raspberry Pi. It does have a functional reset and power button. I've done a few videos on the Mega Pi case. I've also done a tutorial on how to set up the power and reset button with your Raspberry Pi. In my opinion, this is one of the best case options you can get for the Raspberry Pi if you're into that Mega Drive/Genesis look. And when adding a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus with RetroPie, you will have access to a lot more consoles than the Sega Genesis Mini is going to be able to run. Even when the Sega Genesis Mini is hacked, I do have a feeling that the 3B Plus will have more options. So now it's time to do a quick teardown on the Genesis Mini. It's really easy to do. There are 6 Phillips head screws on the bottom of the unit. We're going to pull the top right off and we'll have access to the main board. Now the main board is also held down with 4 extra Phillips head screws along with this heatsink/RF shield. And from here, we can pull the main board out and see what makes this thing tick. I don't see any extra ports on the board or any easily visible UART connections, but I'm sure somebody's going to find something down the road. It's just a matter of time. This thing will be hacked. Now, as for the CPU, storage, and RAM, we're working with a low-end unit here. And there's actually not a lot of info online about this chipset. From what I can gather, this is a rebranded all-winner chip. It's rebranded as Azuki 7213. We have 256 megabytes of RAM and 512 megabytes of flash storage to hold the games. All-winner and Rockchip have been known in the past to sell their CPUs off to third-party companies and then they rebrand them. For instance, there was an old Games Sega Genesis Mini. The CPU was branded as a Monkey King, but come to find out, it was a Rockchip quad-core. I believe it was the 3228. So I'm taking an educated guess here. I believe this is the all-winner H3. It's a quad-core CPU at 1.2 GHz with a Mali MP2 GPU at 600 MHz. The same thing that comes in the Friendly Pi M1. Orange Pi also makes a board with this same chipset. Now, I'm not 100% sure on that, but from all the information, I believe that's what we're working with here. Pretty much an all-winner H3 SoC, which is perfectly capable of running Sega Genesis and Mega Drive games at full speed. We could also do NES, SNES, some PlayStation 1 games when this thing gets hacked. But overall, this is a low-end chipset, and in my opinion, the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus and the Raspberry Pi 4 can outperform this chip in retro gaming. So now it's time to get the Genesis Mini set up. I've plugged in the HDMI, one controller, and my power cable. We're presented with the language menu. I'm going to go with English, but there's French, Italian, Spanish, either Japanese and Chinese, I'm not sure. I'm going to go with English. And here's the main menu. First impressions, it looks amazing. Keep in mind that the Sega Genesis Mini only runs at 720p 60 FPS. You will not be getting 1080p out of this, but for retro gaming, 720p looks great. So I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit. Got some really good games to choose from. 42 games included. Alex Kidd, Altered Beast, Space Harrier 2, Ghouls and Ghosts, Golden Axe, Columns, Wonder Boy, Toe Jam and Earl, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Strider, Mickey's Castle of Illusion, Thunder Force 3, really good game, Alicia Dragon, Kid Chameleon, Super Fantasy Zone, one of my favorites, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Ecco the Dolphin, Road Rash 2, Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition, Shinobi 3, Gunstar Heroes, Shining Force, Mickey's World of Illusion, Streets of Rage 2, Landstalker, Sonic Spinball, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Eternal Champions, Castlevania Bloodlines, Contra Hard Corps, Light Crusader, Beyond Oasis, Phantasy Star 4, Mega Man The Wily Wars, Dynamite Headdy, Earthworm Jim, Comix Zone, Vector Man, Virtua Fighter 2, Monster World 4, Darius, and Tetris for Sega. This might interest a few people because this was actually never released to the public until now with the Sega Genesis Mini. I'm sure you could have found the ROM online, but now it's officially available for a Sega console. Up at the top here, we can sort these games by release date, alphabetical order, genre, or number of players. We also have settings. So we'll go into settings here, languages, screen settings. I'm set to 4:3, the original aspect ratio of the Genesis, or you can go to stretch or wide. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think a lot of the games will look good. I'm going to go back. Wallpaper settings. We have this old school retro one, which I really like. We also have this blocky setting one, and no border at all. You can just have black bars on the side. I'm going to leave it with the retro looking one, so we'll go back. Staff credits, legal notice, and we can reset to factory settings. And yes, by the way, we do get menu music, but I haven't found any way to mute it in the settings yet. I'm not sure if there is an option or not. It doesn't drag on too much, but I'm sure it could get annoying over time. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of gameplay. I'm going to go with Gunstar Heroes. Start game from here. The Genesis Mini does offer 4 save slots per game, so you can save your game. I haven't found any option on the controller itself to get into the menu, but if you press the reset button on the console itself, it'll bring up the system menu. We can save and load, so I'm going to go ahead and save slot 1. It'll give us a little screenshot where we are. Game reset, return to main menu, and we can also lock the save data so the kids can't delete your saved game. So far, performance with Gunstar Heroes is great, and the controller feels absolutely amazing. Now, I do want to test Street Fighter to see if I can pull off some Hadoukens. I usually get that request whenever I do a controller review or a console review. And I'll be doing that live just so we can see the controller when I'm doing it. But I don't think there's going to be any issue at all. This thing feels just like the original Genesis controller. If you hated it, you're going to hate this controller. But if you loved it, you'll love this controller. I mean, it is great. I will be playing this a lot. I'm going to put this console downstairs. I definitely want my kids playing all these games, and there's some really good stuff to choose from. As for exiting a game, again, I haven't found any option on the controller. I press reset on the console. I'm going to save my state here. Return to main menu. Coming out of a game does take a little longer to come back to the main menu, but it's not that bad. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know I love Altered Beast. The arcade version is great, but I grew up playing the Genesis version, so we gotta get into here. So the graphics look great at 720p, there's no screen tearing. I'm going to tell you that you won't notice a difference playing this on, let's say, the Raspberry Pi or a PC using a core or an emulator like Pico Core versus this. You're going to get pretty much the same performance. The only real difference here is this is official Sega hardware.
Welcome to your doom.
The sound is dead on, and I love this controller. This is a great little console. In my opinion, I do think it's a little overpriced at $80. I wish they could have came out of the gate at like $49.99. Price may drop down the road, but if you want to get one early, that's the price you're going to pay. And I will leave links in the description to Amazon. If you got Prime, you can have it in a day or two. There's one more game I wanted to test, and that's Sonic the Hedgehog 2 before we move on to some live testing with Street Fighter. One of the things I noticed with a lot of emulated systems is the ring sound. So we'll grab a few of these. A lot of the emulated systems are pretty off, but this sounds like it's dead on. I mean, they did a great job with this. I know it's a small little feature, and this isn't a hard game to emulate, but a lot of people are going to be playing Sonic the Hedgehog on their Sega Genesis Mini. It's one of the main reasons a lot of people bought it back in the day. And performance is great. And on to some live testing with Street Fighter 2. Unfortunately, this is the only setup that I could plug into right now. I got everything else occupied in the house, but it should give us a good idea. I'm just plugged into one of the free HDMI ports on my arcade cabinet. This is a 720p Amazon Fire television. We'll see how this controller works with Street Fighter 2. So since we're working with the 3-button Genesis controller, we have low punch, medium punch, high punch, and when we press start, we can get low kick, medium kick, and high kick. I have not tested a 6-button controller with this system, but I really don't see any reason it wouldn't work. I really can't stress this enough. The controller that comes with the Genesis Mini or the Mega Drive Mini feels exactly like an original Sega Genesis or Mega Drive controller. The same D-pad and button feel, so if you're into the Genesis controller, you're going to love this thing. And as of pulling off these Hadoukens, I've always found it easier to use an SNES controller. Even in the past with the original Sega Genesis, I had a hard time with it, but you get used to it and it's going to work perfectly. So overall, I think Sega did an amazing job with this mini console. The build quality of the controller and the console are spot on. Gameplay feels really tight, so if you're into collecting these mini consoles like the NES Mini, the SNES Mini, and the PlayStation Classic, the Sega Genesis or the Mega Drive Mini is a perfect addition to your collection. There's only really one complaint that I have, the $80 price tag. I wish they would have put this at $49.99. But who knows, maybe in the future the price will drop a little bit. These are in high demand right now, so $79.99 is the price on Amazon. I will leave links in the description. You can also pick them up at your local Best Buy, and I believe Walmart's going to start carrying these very soon if they haven't already. As soon as a hack is available for the Sega Genesis Mini, I will be doing a video on that. But if there's anything else you want to see running on this in the meantime, or if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I really appreciate you guys watching. It'd be really cool if you could hit that like button, or maybe subscribe to the channel. But like always, thanks for watching.